So I'll just go through the agenda for today. So I'm briefly going to give an introduction to the Circular Economy Hub and the wider UKRI programme. And then that's going to be followed by David, who's going to introduce us to the Circular Economy Club. Then we're going to be looking at national and regional perspectives. So we've got Simon Strickland joining us from the Cabinet Office to give an overview of circular economy from a national perspective. And then we're going to hear from a range of different speakers providing regional perspectives, so from Birmingham, West Midlands, Brighton and Hove, York and Tees Valley. And then we're going to have time at the end for an open debate and Q&A session that David's going to chair. So a few house rules. So if you have any questions about the presentations, please feel free to put them in the chat. Also, it would be great if you could introduce yourselves in the chat, say who you are, where you're from. And then when we go into the Q&A session, or the panel debate, either pop your comments and questions again in the chat, or raise your hand if you'd like to join in as well. While the presentations are taking place, if you could keep your microphones on mute, but feel free to keep your videos on if you'd like, so that we can see your faces. And as I said, we'll be recording the session and making that available afterwards. So I will kick off with an introduction to the Hub. So the Hub is part of a much larger UKRI funded research programme. UKRI, which includes all of the research councils in the UK, have invested £30 million to fund 5 centres of excellence, each focusing on a particular resource flow within the context of circular economy, and an overarching hub. And this is a 4-year programme. And actually, only about half an hour before we went live this afternoon, UKRI have just announced the 5 centres that have been funded. So as you can see here, they're funding 5 centres, and those 5 centres are across the areas of mineral-based construction materials, being led by the University College London, textiles, led by the Royal College of Art, circular chemistry, led by Loughborough, the Centre in Technology Metals, which is led by the University of Exeter, and an interdisciplinary centre for circular metal, which is led by Brunel. So the UKRI website, the link is there if you want to find out more about the centres. It's interesting, in inverted commas, the way that these centres and the hub have been funded, because actually Peter and I have been working on the development of the hub, building up the community, consulting various different groups to better understand the requirements of the community for the circular economy hub. But with our full proposal is still going through review. So we had our final interview last week, and we are expecting announcements either at the end of today or tomorrow as to whether the final amount of funding has been confirmed for the hub. But we're feeling very positive, as we are the only ones being interviewed. So hopefully that positive news should come. It's unfortunately it didn't come before today's session. But as I said, Peter and I were selected as the coordinators of phase 1 of the hub back in February this year. And we've been undertaking a range of different activities, workshops, roundtable events, mapping exercises. And I know a number of you that are present today have been involved in some of those activities. So we've reached a number of different disciplines and sectors. We've engaged with a number of different government offices to really, as I said, try and highlight what the requirements are for the hub and how we can provide that support to the community. So we did a number of mapping exercises. One of those was to map current funding in the area. So this is a map of some of the most prominent UKRI funded grants, and we map those across the circular economy butterfly diagram to kind of highlight where the emphasis has been and also where some of the gaps are. And also why we wanted to do this was to make sure that we weren't replicating anything. A core role of the hub is to coordinate and to bring together a lot of the work that's already taking place in this area and learn from best practice. We also undertook some UK policy landscape mapping through consultation with key policy evidence and delivery teams such as DEFRA, BAYES and the Welsh and Scottish governments. Some of the barriers that we identified in the policy sphere included definitions of waste, overemphasis on recycling targets by waste rather than value or impact, and also a lack of emphasis on reduce, reuse and remanufacture. We also undertook a significant industrial landscape mapping, and we surveyed over 200 individuals from different companies, large and small, startups and innovators. And this slide just represents some of the challenges and needs that we identified as critical to informing the Hub's vision. So, for example, data and metrics for successful circular economy implementation. There was a real requirement that came through for tools, guidance and support, particularly sector specific, and also opportunities for collaboration between industry, academia and policy was highlighted. A number of the topics of interest included circular business models, governance, policy and legislation, and behaviour and mindset change within organisations to really help implement circular economy approaches. So what we did was we took all of this this insight that we gathered and we constructed and co-created with the community the Hub vision. And so we founded the vision on 5 key pillars. And essentially the vision of the Hub is to harness and scale up the UK's leading research capabilities, providing the evidence base, the inspiration and the capacity to accelerate the transition towards a global circular economy. And involved within that will be the development of a national circular economy observatory to really pull together data and modelling approaches to inform key circular economy decision making across policy, industry, academia and also future funding. We are also going to create a circular economy knowledge platform which will be open access to consolidate and synthesise outputs from across the programme but also the wider community. We want to facilitate lots of different mechanisms of interdisciplinary cross-value chain collaboration. So we'll be running a number of different events to do that, and also to contribute towards the co-creation of a UK circular economy roadmap across key strategic sectors. And then finally, but by no means least, one of the core aims of the Hub is to build and coordinate an inclusive circular economy community, to really enable and empower that collaboration between diverse user groups and to bring many of those skills and capabilities and expertise together, as well as providing skills and capabilities to early career professionals. So obviously I only had a few minutes, so I can't go into too much detail on the Hub, but these are some of the different types of activities that we'll be running that the community and those on the call today can get involved in. So as I said, we'll be developing a national circular economy observatory and knowledge platform to bring together the knowledge base and making those tools and methods and case studies widely available to support implementation. We're also putting a significant amount of our funding into a flexible fund, which means we'll be funding novel demonstrators and small-scale feasibility studies to actually help the upscaling and the acceleration of circular economy in practice. And we really want to focus on kind of industry and government collaboration, but also focusing on kind of place-based and regional activity to really try and inspire and upscale some of that activity. We'll be, as I mentioned, developing a roadmap across different strategic sectors and value chains, and there'll be an opportunity to co-create those roadmaps with the community, and also offering a number of design sprints across value chains as well. Another part of the proposal is research and innovation clusters. So we'll be developing a number of expert working groups. The 4 that we've defined so far include policy, data, value retention and skills and the future of work. And so this will be an opportunity for members interested in particular areas to develop and to contribute to those working groups. And then finally, as you'd expect from a programme of this size, we will be bringing together a number of of different webinars. We will be working with the Circular Economy Club to bring in diverse and inspirational speakers from across the community. And this webinar really is kind of the starting point of that, the purpose of which is to hear from lots of different regional and city perspectives on what are some of the challenges and opportunities of implementing circular economy at a regional scale. So I won't go on for any longer, but hopefully that's given you an overview of the Circular Economy Hub and the opportunity. And I'm now going to hand over to David to explain what the Circular Economy Club is all about, to a key partner of the hub.
Lovely, thank you very much, Fiona, and it's really interesting to hear you talk about the hub and all the good work that's been done. February actually feels like about 2 years ago rather than 9 months ago, but I'm going to briefly talk to you all about the Circular Economy Club. Many of you are here because you're already part of the Circular Economy Club, and just having a look through the chats and the introductions, welcome to colleagues from Ghana, from Brazil and from Singapore. So we've got 4 continents represented here already, so brilliant. Circular Economy Club, not-for-profit, international network, which has got 270 cities with individual chapters in. My role is I'm the European External Affairs Lead, but I also run the London chapter and work very closely with the Brighton chapter, and then also in my spare time run 2 businesses. The Circular Economy Club is very much around trying to get cities to adopt circular ways, and by 2025 we want to try and get 40 cities working towards circular economy and reducing waste to landfill. We're a very diverse network of businesses, consultants, networks, not-for-profit supporters and individuals. If any of you are not a member of the Circular Economy Club, it's free to join, and it's something that we want to, alongside the CE Hub in the UK, create an international network of like-minded people that can actually progress circular economy in the most efficient way possible. We have a large number of different partners from all sorts of different backgrounds, and that's partly one of our aspects, is collaboration. Just a very quick overview of what we've got on our website. It may not be the most user-friendly website, but it's got lots of information on it. So lots of reports. You can access all of our different networks through the likes of Facebook, social media, Twitter, etc. I've already mentioned about our cities program, but we're also working with 25 universities across the world as well. And fundamentally, a lot of what we've been doing is working with startups. And I can see from the individuals that have joined us today, we've got some really exciting startups that I've been involved in, but equally a numbers that I haven't been involved in. So it's really exciting to see so many small companies here today. We're here to also support. So we have a mentors program with, it's now over 50 circular economy experts from around the world that you can access and request some mentorship. We also solve stuff together. So these are some of our global events, and we've just finished the World Cities Week. I just want to pause my slides here if I can, just to let you know, because a couple of you have already asked this. We've just literally launched the Circular Economy Institute, and this is a new branch of the Circular Economy Club, and it's really there to help individuals, businesses become certified in understanding what circular economy is. So we now have on the website access to 2 certificates that are self-taught, self-learning. And for that, you will end up getting a training certificate. This gives you an idea of some of the prices. We've had a number of people across the world take this. It's now been translated into Spanish as well. Do get in touch if you're interested in any of this, because some of us who are on this call are ambassadors, and we can get discounts. But get in touch with myself as a first point of call, and then we'll see where we can go afterwards. Right, so we are across the world. So welcome to everybody from around the world, but in the UK we've got 23 chapters. If you're not involved in one of these chapters and they're local to you, please do try and join us. All of the information is on the website. And I'll briefly talk about my chapter in London. I've got a team of 6 volunteers, including myself. We tend to do a lot of networking pre-lockdown, but have done a lot of Instagram Live and Zoom calls. And it's really about bringing people together. And we've had some really good collaborations that have come out of our London events. Including understanding where and what's going on across London in terms of circular economy activities. So that's all you're going to get from me, which for those of you who know me is quite a short presentation. So thank you very much for coming today. We're really looking forward to getting to know you guys more, but also to enable our regional partners to be able to demonstrate what's going on at a local level.
So yeah, my name is Debbie Ward. I'm Director of Consult, which provides circular economy related training, education and advisory services. And I'm a co-organiser of the Birmingham West Midlands Circular Economy Club. Just having a look at the history of the West Midlands to start off with. Big tradition of industry dating back to the 16th century, where small metalworking industries developed. Birmingham was branded City of 1,000 Trades and the engine room of the UK in the 1800s. Then from the early 20th century, Birmingham and Coventry became important centres of the car industry, with Birmingham still something of an industrial powerhouse today, though many manual trades have obviously long since been replaced by electric and digital technologies. Pre-pandemic, Birmingham had been reaping the rewards of over 2 decades of regeneration and investment. However, current economic forecasts now show the West Midlands to be one of the UK regions unfortunately hit hardest by the crisis. Impending Brexit was already a huge concern to many of our regional manufacturers. Now having also to deal with the impact of COVID is leaving many hugely exposed. With the combination of industrial and demographic mix, putting some local economies amongst the most vulnerable in the UK in terms of both their sectoral composition and health vulnerability. So quite a few challenges. However, the region has got a number of strengths and characteristics that a green and circular recovery can build on to move onwards and upwards, including manufacturing, as previously mentioned, a number of high-profile universities, a large number of logistics and distribution hubs, and a diverse built environment sector. For example, as part of the region's 3.2 billion investment blueprint submitted to government, the combined authority is hoping to secure 50 million for its retrofitting programme. Currently, the West Midlands has the highest fuel poverty gap in the UK due to the high average age of local housing stock. So this initiative would have a really positive economic, environmental and social impact. Further strengths are a creative cluster in Digbeth, what's dubbed as Silicon Spa in Leamington with over 50 gaming companies, an innovative and rapidly growing low carbon environmental sector, and with digital and technology and digitisation being key enablers of the circular economy, the region should be well placed to capitalise on the opportunities that circular business models can bring. To further paint an optimistic picture for the region, in June 2019, the Combined Authority declared a climate emergency and set a target of zero carbon for the West Midlands by 2041. Then in 2020, Green paper to start a conversation about the actions required for the region to achieve the carbon target, whilst delivering an inclusive, prosperous and fair transition that leaves nobody behind. There are 5 areas of focus: nature, buildings, energy, transport, mobility, and a circular and green economy. In June of this year, a programme for implementing an environmental recovery was published, which sets out how we can achieve changes to our business and personal lives and the systems that underpin our economy and society for the better. The paper identified the need to kickstart the circular economy for the region as a priority. The Birmingham West Midlands Circular Economy Club chapter have been supporting the Combined Authority with the early stages of this piece of work, which has been really exciting. Stakeholder engagement was through an online questionnaire and a workshop, which both took place in September. The task force is currently being brought together with a draft route map due in April and a final route map due in June. Moving quickly on to the CEC Cities Week event, there's a few points from the feedback and discussions from both last year and this year's events. One of our panelists this year was Alice from Olio. She was talking about with the store closures, the ad hoc food collections that they did meant the food saved by Olio was doubled. In fact, that there was no food shortages, but it was actually a question of food being in the wrong place or in the wrong packaging, and that almost 50% of people are now wasting less food. And it was no surprise that joining the dots came up at both events as a continuing theme and key challenge to the implementation and growth of the circular economy. Another COVID-related example we talked about was community hubs. Change in working patterns, perhaps forever, in tandem with a growing sense of community and need for community space, has brought the establishment of more hubs to the fore. Hubs that help people stitch together services and opportunities they need is one of the ways the government's considering as a way to level up communities. Finally, a brief overview of some circular activity in the region. Resource recovery, there's an organisation called Paint 360 based in Cradley Heath that was established to tackle the issue of waste paint disposal. Product as a service, we've got Cool Mill in Solihull that provide a disruptive rice milling technology. Circular inputs, example there is Urban Eden Farm in Henley Narden, which is vertical farming using aeroponic technology. Product life extension, we've got Acceleron in Birmingham that develops sustainable and reusable batteries. Share Shack in Ladywood is an example of using the sharing platforms where people come together to share, learn, borrow and repair. And then some enablers of circular economy, lots of different university programmes, and I'll leave you to absorb that when you have a look at the slides once they've been distributed. And lastly, a few different organisations in the region, such as International Synergies, Exergy, the Energy from Waste and Circular Economy Policy Commission, Sustainability West Midlands, and last but not least, the Circular Economy Club chapter. So that's a bit of a race through my slides, but I hope that's been a good regional overview. Thank you.
So yes, thank you very much. I am Sally May, I'm a coach and I'm also co-founder of Circular Brighton and Hove. We have two names, we're the Circular Economy Club Brighton and Hove and Circular Brighton and Hove, so I'll explain that in a second. First of all, I thought because we have people from other countries here as well, I'd just explain on the map where we are. We are on the south coast of England, quite close to London, and quite close to Europe, and politically we're also quite close to Europe. For fun, I've included a little map showing the results of the last general election, which show all the Conservative voting all around the region, and then the Labour and the Green in central Brighton. Just to explain that we are quite eclectic here, there's a great mix. We've got two universities, Brighton and Sussex, and we have a very vibrant visitor economy. So, and I've included a picture of our pier there, and we have festivals, the Fringe Festival, lots of creative people. I'm moving around this slide in a kind of clockwise way just to help you. So then bottom right corner, I also have something to represent the digital economy, which actually represents, it's been growing a lot, and we have 41% of our local economy is actually represented by the knowledge economy, and we have 1,000, at the last count there was 1,500 jobs in ICT, digital sectors and startups. So it's very vibrant, and there's also a lot of purpose-led businesses. So this has actually led to the creation of the Good Business Club, and there's an annual conference called the Meaning Conference, which brings thought leaders from all over the world to Brighton to talk about ethical and sustainable business. It's quite an exciting place to live, and we're also very lucky to have a whole range of beautiful ecosystems on our doorstep. So we've got the South Downs and obviously the sea, but we've also got a fabulous permaculture experiment going on at Stanmer Park. That's a picture of the Earth House, the Earth Ship, which is there. And also people may have heard of the Wilding Project at the Knepp Estate, which is the subject of Isabella Tree's book and has been on the TV quite a lot lately. So that's a very exciting project just on our doorstep. And then just to sort of situate us, because it's very important from a circular economy point of view, in our broader region, what else is there? So to the north, obviously, we've got Gatwick Airport with all of the businesses that are based around there. We've got many towns and cities in the area and lots of agricultural land. And also we've got a couple of ports, so in Newhaven and Shoreham. So that's just to sort of situate and introduce you to our city and our region. So let me just move on. So Circular Brighton and Hove, a little history of our group. So our first event, the first big event, was in January 2018 when we did a mapping event. I think there was about 60 people who came, and we basically explained circular economy, what it is, and then we got people into breakout groups and got them to identify local businesses and initiatives which are circular. So as is often the case with this, it's really the engagement part which is key, and it just got people interested and excited because they realized that this term, which seemed a bit strange, was actually something that they understood now. So as a result of that, two groups came together, the Circular Economy Club, which Peter Desmond had set up, and the Eco Dinner Club, which David Greenfield, who's on this call, and some other people had set up. And we developed a one-year plan looking at systems change and awareness raising. We had a core team of about 5 people, and we just started to organise ourselves as a team, meet regularly, and start to get events schedules together. So we actually had, on average, maybe 10 to 12 events a year in 2018, 19, and then 2020, where we've obviously moved online, but we've continued. And we developed a strategy last year where we were looking at broadening our vision to include the region and emphasize the connection with helping communities to thrive. So we're kind of broadening our definition of circular economy a little bit. So moving on, what have we achieved? So in the 2 main areas, in system change area, so David and Peter reviewed the Brighton and Hove economic strategy. And as a result of their discussions with the council, included some commitments to circular economy, which was really exciting. And then since then, David's been working with the council on creating a circular economy route map to 2035. So that's currently under review and internal sign off. So we can't share it yet, but the initial focus areas will be on built environment and on food and beverages. But what's really exciting is it's actually been developed with the council, talking to 150 of the council stakeholders over 18 months. So a lot of the actions that are included in the draft plan have been co-created with them. So it's a real engagement piece. And then, of course, awareness raising. We've organised over 20 monthly events, which have been very popular, with a whole range of circular themes, ranging from bread waste to visiting the Waste House at Brighton University with Duncan Baker-Brown and Kat Fletcher, had presentations by Claire Potter about circular design, lots of exciting topics, and basically a lot of people understanding what circular really means now. And our mailing list is 670 people. And yes, it's an important thing for us to really look at the cross-sector collaboration. How can we get people from all areas involved, from the local government, from civil society, and from businesses and universities? So let me move on. Yeah, so our approach, basically, I personally am not an expert in circular economy, but I know enough about it to help other people understand it. And that's a good start. So, and what I like about it as a coach as well is it's very solution focused. So if people are feeling overwhelmed by what's going on in the world, explaining to them what circular economy is helps them get out of the fight, flight, freeze mode and into a solution focus mode. And also appeals to leaders in business and government, because it's not just talking about green or eco stuff, it's talking about value creation and solving multiple problems at the same time. And it's exciting. It's giving people permission to think differently. And our approach, aside from looking at system change and awareness raising, is beginners are welcome. So empower people, just explain what the high level principles are, and then let them run with it and see where they go. And actually embrace the lack of a clear definition. That, well, there's lots of clear definitions, but there's no single one agreed one. So the fact that this is the case means we can explore the broader version of circular economy, where we're linking it to social issues, like in Kate Raworth's Donut Economics. So our next steps are basically continuing to organise events. Also, just, you know, in terms of challenges, we are all doing this on top of our day jobs. So we often end up funding things ourselves and spending a lot of time organising things. So we will be looking at how we recruit more active members to help us organise things. One of our members, Anna Bertmark, is studying sustainability and doing a master's, and she's looking at doing a circular experiment locally based on an example in Australia, where she would work with some local businesses to help them look at what problems they've got and see how circular solutions could help them with that. So we're all going to be supporting her with that, and it looks like quite an exciting project. We did a webinar last week, I think, or the week before, with Circle Economy and the University of Sussex about jobs, and we're hoping to continue working with them on that. And also, obviously, supporting the Council's circular economy route map and seeing how we can support that, being the engagement of that with the wider population. So that was a whistle-stop tour. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to your questions later.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't have any slides. I have just got a little moss terrarium to represent the circular economy here. But yeah, I've been running the Circular Economy Club in York for around 3 years. We've worked with Catherine, who you'll be hearing from next as well. Volunteers from Bureau Happold in Leeds, as well as we've got Katie Thomas from the North Yorkshire LEP, which are actually promoting Yorkshire as a circular economy region. Now, we've been running events, workshops, partnering up with various organisations such as York St John University, through to the City of York Council, who've been promoting their basically environmental and sustainability agenda through the One Planet Living principles. But let me start off by talking a bit about York. Is obviously a great city. It's very much based on, I would say Yorkshire is very much based on circular economy, because if anyone's been up here, people from Yorkshire, despite me not being here, are quite frugal, with the phrase every time you hear something is, how much? So very, it's always about seeing what we could do, beg, borrow, steal from other industries and initiatives as well. But ever since circular economy has really come to the fore and sustainability, you're seeing a lot of examples of zero waste shops popping up, schools tying in with food waste, excess food from supermarkets and dealing this out as well, all the way through to York City Council initiating eco-travel plans, and they're now going to be getting electric scooters. That's been signed off as well. We're very fortunate that we've got two high quality universities in the city. York St John, that does a lot more design work, and a majority of the product designers and business school graduates now are experienced in circular economy. So you're seeing a lot of them coming along to our workshops. And then when you're looking at University of York, you're tying in there to the more the life sciences and chemistry, biology. And they've also got a national cluster called BioVale, which is very much focused on the looking at biological ways to using waste and generate products. And that's one of the global leaders in circular economy and bioeconomy resources. Now, I mentioned this York City Council, they're very much pushing this forward as well. We've got looking through one of the largest regeneration projects in the UK, which is York Central behind the train station, which is going to be opening up for new businesses and housing, and they're developing ways for looking at circular economy principles throughout this development, all the way from looking at the building materials, the life cycle analysis of the buildings as well. And then very much back to what I mentioned before about the North Yorkshire LEP. Now, it's actually Circular Yorkshire Month at the moment. And there's a number of events running across the region, talking about areas such as Circular Malton, which is just outside York. We're very fortunate. We've got one of the proponents of Circular Malton actually in the chat at the moment. So if you want to know more about how a small market town of 4,000 people is promoting circular economy and developing new initiatives, I would very much look at Google search Circular Malton and actually speak to Sue Jefferson as well. But one of the biggest things as well is really promoting circular economy through events like York Design Week, York Fashion Week, and Environment Week as well. And again, tied into Circular Yorkshire Month. So getting people together, getting them understanding it and kind of promoting it as well. We've got a bit of a game going on with David down in London, that despite York being a smaller size, that we can actually map out more circular economy initiatives than he's got. And don't worry, David, if we are going to take it further, we have got lawyers in place to do a recount. I don't know where that precedent come from, but we will sort it out somehow. No, but the idea is to kind of bring a bit of fun into it. We're also open to further volunteers to allow York to push forwards to see how we can expand our reach into more businesses and get it part of the DNA, especially into smaller businesses, because York Council actually during the lockdown and COVID were actually very, very supportive and handed out 100 million in grants to small businesses. Two of my businesses were very fortunate to get that to allow us to continue to trade. And they're going to be the lifeblood, because then they're tapping into the small clusters that York's got in the high-tech sector, and then feeding all the way up to the larger businesses out with. So if you like Yorkshire tea, Tailors of Harrogate, Betty's, those kind of food that they're in the city, Nestle as well, and Rowntree's, the chocolate makers. In Yorkshire as well, there's the UK headquarters of Interface. I'm sure they're having a battle with Birmingham to decide where they're hosted. And I think the key thing that in the message coming from York is people are willing to innovate and look at different models. And one of the key messaging points we were trying to get across is getting across the clear jargon-free language. So it's not necessarily using the words, phrase circular economy, just getting people to understand what works for them, what works in an educational sense. I'm partnered up with Good Food York as well, and we're looking into soil science and the environment and how we can just get people understanding what's important to them. Is it minimizing the use of plastics? Is it healthy food? Is it tying all the way through to how they dispose of their waste products as well, and just getting these mapped out so people know without having to fill them with jargon and loads of complicated maps, just saying this is what's relevant for you. I think what we're finding up here in York and Yorkshire is very much, it's got to be clear, simple language that is relevant for that kind of level of people to get them to make the most impact, because it's about the human sphere that's always kind of left out of the circular economy, forgetting about all the technology and the biological. It's us making the change that's going to actually shift these behaviours and make them real. And just to end, we've got another workshop coming on the 27th of November. That's looking at how does York
Simon,
move to a carbon negative and regenerative city.
Can you hear
That's
me?
a follow up to one
Yes,
I
we can hear
ran
you.
2 weeks ago, just basically mapping out various strategies. And yeah, that's all for me. If you want to get in contact, find out more about what we're doing in York and Yorkshire, please let me know. Specifically, if you want to speak to Sue Jefferson, drop me an email or contact her directly in the chat now and see if she can talk to you about the projects they're doing in Malton. Okay, thank you.
So hello, I represent the Tees Valley up in the north of England. This is my corporate career background, and I've been working in the circular economy since 2014. The second edition of my circular economy handbook was published by Kogan Page just last week. and I host the Circular Economy podcast, interviewing entrepreneurs and business leaders to find out how they're using circular approaches to make more profitable, resilient, and sustainable businesses. So for those of you who are not familiar with where the Tees Valley is, it's that red section up north between York, who we've just heard from, and then Newcastle further up. And there's a local enterprise partnership covering these 5 local authorities. And the Industrial Revolution transformed the region into a major centre for a range of high-value activities, with the first exports being led from Swaledale, the blue star on the map where I live. And then iron ore was discovered in the Cleveland Hills, and steel making began in the 1850s. In its heyday, the steelworks employed more than 40,000 people and earned a worldwide reputation for very high-grade steel construction. The decline began in the 90s, and in 2010, the last blast furnace was mothballed. And Teesside steel was used for Jodrell Bank Observatory, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and more recently skyscrapers like the Scalpel and walkie-talkie buildings in London. And the world's first passenger railway was built here and had its first journey in 1825. And from the 1830s, trains were moving coal from the Durham coalfields to Middlesbrough, which then became a major export. And shipbuilding developed as another important sector. The chemical industry prospered, producing sulfuric acid and fertilizers from the 1830s, and later that century, rock salt deposits were discovered nearby, leading to the production of alkalis. And later on, those links to the coalfields, coupled with hydrogenation techniques, led to the development of plastics, nylon, fuels, and other petrochemicals from the 1930s and 1940s. And although it's described as a post-industrial area, the population of around 700,000 people, it has an annual economy worth 12.3 billion and is part of the net exporting region in the UK. So Tees Valley Local Enterprise Partnership covers those 5 local authorities, and Teesside's home to an advanced manufacturing park and world-leading businesses operating in the process, manufacturing, digital and creative sectors. And the Tees Valley Industrial Heritage means we have a highly skilled workforce with transferable skills, together with excellent transport links. And you can see there the LEP's ambition to be the demonstration region for the circular economy in the UK. But although we have those ambitions, it's been slow progress so far. The projects making the news are mainly entry-level remediation and recycling projects. Net Zero Teesside is a groundbreaking carbon capture, utilisation and storage project, and that aims to be the UK's first decarbonised industrial cluster, operational by 2030, and it'll be delivered by a consortium of the world's largest oil companies led by BP. Just last month, Lucite International, launched a project to develop a circular economy for acrylic, using molecular recycling, which is kind of a breakthrough technology, and that'll enable end-of-life acrylic to be recycled endlessly, reducing both carbon emissions and obviously landfill. And interestingly, acrylic was first developed on Teesside by ICI back in the 1930s. And as you probably know, it's used in a wide range of products, including lighting, number plates and signage, and medical equipment. And interestingly, the majority of sneeze screens being installed in buildings all over the world as a result of COVID-19 are also made of acrylic. Teesside University supports nearly 3,000 jobs and contributes 125 million to the local economy. And this year, the university announced a collaboration with engineering consultancy TWI to create a new innovation centre focused on the circular economy and recycling. They're going to particularly look at industrial recycling methods, bioprocessing techniques, remanufacturing, lean production methods, and asset lifecycle management approaches. So that's it from the Tees Valley. Take questions in the chat, or you can ping me an email at Catherine@rethinkglobal.info. Thank you.
thanks very much indeed for inviting me to this webinar. It's a huge pleasure to be able to participate and to hear of the really interesting work that's being done across the country. And of course, it's a very timely event, not least given the strategic objectives that the government has to do with net zero, for example, and the importance of working with the projected balance between resource demand and supply over coming decades, not just nationally, of course, but internationally too. And there's a huge number of very thought-provoking issues that have been raised this afternoon and in the wider literature about the kinds of wicked policy challenge that circular economy thinking both offers and provides interesting and engaging possible answers to. So, I mean, it's been really fascinating to listen to the relationship between the different levels of the economy that are covered by the examples illustrated this afternoon, from the micro circular economy business models level right the way through the city and regional dimension. And I guess I'm looking at it also, of course, from a national and to a degree, an international perspective. And in fact, when I thought about the meeting today, I was reminded of the argument that there are certain concepts which are essentially contestable, and thought that perhaps the circular economy is also an essentially contestable concept, in that it's internally hugely complex in its systemic and other properties. It's variously describable. I recall the comment earlier this afternoon about a number of different definitions being around. I seem to remember a paper not that long ago covering 114 different definitions of circular economy. And in terms of resilience, it's usable defensively, and hugely importantly, it signifies a very valuable achievement when a circular economy can be delivered. So for all these sorts of reasons, it's a hugely important area of work that you're engaging upon and that the Hub is providing leadership for. And it'll be really important to see how this initiative progresses in the future. So thanks very much indeed for inviting me to say these few words, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion now. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Simon. Really appreciate that, and I think that ties the event together really nicely, looking at it from a national as well as a regional and city perspective and scale. And it's clear to see from all of the speakers today kind of what an important topic it is, and also how much traction it's gained across policy, business, and most importantly, people and society, which has been fantastic to see. So I'm going to now hand over to Dave, because I've seen some questions already coming in. So I'll leave it to you, David, to chair the panel session.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Fiona, and thank you very much, Simon. It's great to have your input on this. And Fiona, I think you're entirely right. We need national leadership as well as regional leadership, and the two need to be hand in hand. So it's great to hear from you, Simon. Okay, so we have our panelists of Fiona, Sally, Catherine, Richard and Debbie, who are all back on camera. By all means, all of you, if you want to go on camera, please do now, because I might ask you to ask your own questions rather than just taking out the chat. We'll see how I feel. But I want to start off. We've had some really, really positive and proactive discussion already of what's going on in the regions. The title of this session was around COVID. We haven't heard a huge amount about the impacts of COVID. I personally am seeing quite a few good things coming out of the result of COVID for the circular economy. So I just wonder if anybody would like to give us a positive or a negative that has come as a result of the last 9 months and us all being cooped up at home or not being able to go on with normal life. Who's looking most interested in this question to begin with? I'm going to go with Richard.
Yeah, I think, David, you can we've talked about this before, is you don't have to travel everywhere. We can get in contact with people a lot easier, which is great. The downside of that is you can get in contact with people a lot easier and you're always there. And you end up, I don't know how many other people have had just constant Zoom calls going all the way through. And then you realize actually you've not done anything. So yeah, I think that's a benefit as well. So you are seeing people reduction in travel costs. Even jokingly, people are not spending as much money on shoes and trousers because you only see the top half of you.
Yeah, I'm in shorts. You're right.
But yeah, no, I think for that, it's allowing people, more and more people are getting grasp of digital technologies and realizing how much easier things are by automating a lot of things. We're seeing things here. I've got an AI note taker that's joining the call that's going to record what we say and convert it to text. And all these solutions that are coming up, I remember doing a panel session a number of years ago, an early founder of Zoom. I think he's very happy at the moment.
Yeah, I can imagine he is. Right, we're getting loads and loads of questions coming in, which is great. And I just want to pick up on a couple of them. And I'll ask the other speakers to contribute to the question we've just had, but also any of the others. And I just want to pick up from everybody a yes/no answer. Is office space obsolete now for some jobs? And can that office space be made into apartments? Catherine, yes, no?
Yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Richard?
Maybe.
Ooh, I knew you'd be awkward. Debbie?
Well, yeah, maybe, because it depends on the buildings.
Fiona?
Yep.
I'm seeing a lot of derelict offices at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that's Catherine. You want to add something to that? Go on.
Yeah, I think it's not just about housing. It's about you could have pop-up maker spaces, repair cafes, all sorts of demo things around the circular economy could all happen in disused buildings.
Yes.
A bit like the what's the blue something in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
It's like a demo center for the circular economy.
Last one. Move with us.
Sorry, I was just brilliant. Thank you, Catherine. There's some really good answers coming in from individuals on there, so keep an eye on the chat. Thank you, Louise and Jenny. Jenny, I'll speak to you separately about offices in Brighton. So I want to pick up Deepak. Now, I don't know your name, Deepak, because it only says Deepak. But
David. I'm another David.
Brilliant. It's what a wonderful name. So just going back to a question that you raised earlier, which is, has the UK government spoken much about the circular economy? And I'll answer that one very briefly. The 2019 UK Resources and Waste Management Strategy, which was ultimately going to be about waste, became a bastion of circular economy. So there was a lot of circular economy activity put into that, and that was released by HM government rather than by DEFRA, which again is a bit of a move way forward. I'm going to ask Fiona this, because in your journey over the last 9 months, Fiona, David's asked a question. He sees more exciting action on a regional and city base than he does at a national level. Is that fair, or is it not clear what nationally is going on?
Well, I mean, I think Peach and I have been engaging with a lot of government departments over the last few months, DEFRA, BEIS, Cabinet Office, and I think there is an appetite for circular economy, and it's coming through in a number of national strategies and in discussion. I think there's still need for clearer evidence and clearer knowledge, scientific knowledge in particular, around sort of decision making and where we should be focusing policy at a national scale. And as I mentioned in my presentation, a lot of the language is still around kind of resource efficiency, looking at recycling and waste targets. And I think it's our job collectively, both at a national and a local and regional scale, to push that pin and to inform and to keep reminding government and others of all of these fantastic initiatives that are now becoming so widespread, and actually, hopefully then some of the language and the terminology, but also the ambition and the targets will start to shift. But I think, we've certainly seen, a lot of passion for it at a national government level.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is hidden in many cases. It comes back to another question that somebody asked a bit earlier, which is, what are some of the barriers to particular cities and regions? And I think that I'll talk as somebody who's been working in one region. I think one of the biggest challenges is demonstrating that the circular economy is a business model that will bring economic benefit. There's a lot of places that still think that the circular economy is a Green Welly Brigade program. And so, for example, and I know I'll ask Sally to pick this up, but I'll also ask Debbie to pick this up because she's been working slightly differently. I know in the Brighton area, we've had some real challenges funding the resources to actually get the work done, to be able to understand what needs to be done. London's been slightly different. That started 6 years ago through the London Waste Recycling Board, and there was funding going into that. Glasgow's got huge amounts of funding from Zero Waste Scotland. Debbie, do you want to just pick up how Birmingham and West Midlands are looking at this from an economic perspective? And Sally, I don't know if you want to talk about the Brighton area a little bit more yourself. Debbie.
Who do you want to go first?
Debbie, go on then.
So sorry, you my Wi-Fi dipped out a bit then. From an economic perspective,
how's the city engaging with circular? Is it being driven by environmental concern, or is it by an opportunity for economic benefit?
I'd suggest that it is more environmental, as much as we're, as a circular economy club, are obviously trying to push it from an economic perspective, because that's the only way it's going to be successful ultimately, if it balances those three things: environment, economy, and society. But I think, it's being led from within the environment team at the Combined Authority, being led as hanging off the WM 2041 climate change action plan. So there's business benefit and opportunities woven into the message, but I think at a high level it probably feels more environmental at the moment.
Okay, Sally, do you want to pick up on what you've seen in Brighton? I know I could answer this one as well, but
yes. Well, from what I see in Brighton, there's been no big material flow analysis of what's coming into the city and the region and what's going out, and identifying where the biggest potential is through that data. But there have been enough discussions over the last couple of years, I think, with the council to at least pick a couple of sectors on which to focus initially. And so I think, I think there is just a lack of funding for this, and so at least we kind of have the conversation starting, at least, and having a circular economy route map drafted with some actions in it, focusing on the built environment to start with. And there is a lot of work done in circular economy in the built environment already, so that's really picked up momentum, and there's a lot of excitement around that. And then for food and beverages, that's obviously part of the visitor economy, and there's some specific actions relating to circular economy which can take place there. But so it's not just seen as environmental, but there is a lack of funding to really move forward at the pace that we would really want to, I think.
Thank you. And this picks up a question that Annette's asked as well about how the circular economy clubs are funded, and the simple answer is they're not. All of us that organise will actually be volunteering our time. We do try and get sponsorship from local businesses or from local authorities or universities to host us, but as an example, in London, over the last 36 months, I've run 36 events where we've had probably around 2,500 people attend, and I've had a budget of £1,200. So we try and do what we can with the money that we get, which Fiona, I just want to raise something that you picked up in terms of the challenge fund, and can you just tell us a little bit more about that? And then I'm going to ask Catherine to just go back to COVID, and then I've got a big question that I want to ask some of you.
Sure. So part of the hub funding, we are allocating to this flexible fund, and this is for us to fund smaller scale projects. So we'll be funding projects up to kind of 40, 50k, really to demonstrate additional collaboration between policy, industry and academia. But we're particularly interested to focus on regional and place-based initiatives, because through our conversations with local government and many of members of the Circular Economy Club, we've identified that there's so many initiatives happening that have real potential and opportunity, but just need some additional seed funding to really make a difference and upscale those. So some of the funding will be made available to those kind of demonstrator feasibility projects, as well as giving circular economy community the opportunity to engage with some of the 5 centres that are being funded through the UKRI funding as well. So if it's a particular project on textiles or the built environment, for example, there'll be funding calls where people can bid into for some of that funding and to funnel into particular initiatives. So the first funding call will be hopefully when the hub funding is confirmed, they'll be released next year.
And that's really good, and I know that we will hopefully have a number of circular economy chapters that will be looking at how they can put together a bid with their local authorities and local partners to explore whether or not they can do something unique in their area, which is of course one of the key aspects of what we want to try and achieve through this working together, isn't it, Fiona? So right, coming back to the questions, Catherine, can you just give us a little bit of an insight into COVID and circular? And thank you very much to I've just got to go all the way up to Tafik for the paper that looks very interesting. But Catherine, very quick overview of where we are with COVID and CE.
Yeah, I just thought it's really interesting how COVID's shown us that we can make large scale changes at speed. So some of the reasons we think reacting to climate and moving to more circular systems, some of the barriers that we've perceived have been there, not really there. If everybody gets behind it and realizes what the benefits are of doing something completely differently, for local community and so on, then we get behind that. And obviously it's shown us that some of the perhaps the kind of activities that we do that have the biggest footprint, like overseas travel, eating junk food, all that kind of stuff, we can manage without them and we can survive, and people are getting more engaged in nature and realizing how important that is, which is giving us the opportunity to sort of embrace it and realize how important it is for us. So I think the mindset is changing, and it gives us a fantastic window of opportunity to start talking about, a bright future that's powered by the circular economy, which can create meaningful jobs and reduce our footprint on the world and lots of other things. So I just think it's there's a really good mindset shift across the country really, and we should take advantage of that.
And that's a really nice introduction into my, I think, final question, because we've got 5 minutes left, which I want to ask all the panel, really, which is at an international level. And Simon Strickland, if you're still on the phone and you want to answer this, please do. But I will also understand if you stay on mute and don't answer the question. So my question is, does Joe Biden becoming president-elect in America and his proclamation that USA will re-engage on climate change mean that the UK can use COP26 as an opportunity to embed circular economy as a way of meeting the 2050 carbon targets? It's as though I've written that question before. Richard, I'm going to ask you to answer that first, because I know you'll be very subtle and not say anything controversial about that. And then I'll go round to the other panelists.
Sorry, yeah. Do I think we can move toward? Yes. I mean, we're actually, myself, there's Alan Dean on the, is one of the, in the chat there. We're actually working with Nigel Topping on a project called Pivot Projects, moving toward for COP26 next year. And this is a collective intelligence project, and we're looking globally with over 200 people around the world. And circular economy is embedded in there, because we're starting to look at, one of the things that I'm interested in is how does our material, say in food security changes from COVID, impact people. You're seeing that, you know, massive, you know, textile manufacturers, clothing or retailers cancelling their orders for clothing made in Bangladesh, but then they're not paying them for cancelling the contracts, and then people going starving and going more into poverty. So we need to start looking at the impacts of the changes of our supply chains as well, and very much delving into this transparency and traceability. I think there was a WWF report come out early in COVID about the UK's food strategy and how that's linked to the global food supply chain. So we really need to explore those issues and think, can we grow all the things locally as the best? Or is it for, you know, more sustainable, environmentally friendly? Or is it a case of looking at what's right, you know, at the moment? Because it's still more environmentally friendly for us to get lamb from New Zealand than it is to get them from Wales because of the energy use. So it's about thinking realistically and tying it into trade as well, because we still want those trade partners. And that was probably the most politically correct answer I could ever give.
I know, I'm really surprised, actually.
I mean, it might well
turn you there before you say anything else. I mean, we'll count, Chapman. No, thank you. That's really, really helpful. Debbie, Catherine, Sally, do you want to give some thoughts on this question? Who's looking? Put your hands up if you do. Sally, go on then.
I'll just add a quick thing that I think the most successful societies will be the most innovative societies, and circular economy is all about innovation and value creation. So we just need to bring it to the forefront and demonstrate that we can do this and impress the heck out of everyone at COP26. So yes, it needs to be very prominent there.
Catherine,
yeah, to jump on.
Go on there, Richard. Yeah.
Right. Well, just one thing, because I mentioned that previously. We should look at the innovation adoption curve and see what companies are leading the way, and then seeing who's going to follow on, because not every country or every region is the leader. You know, it's sometimes better to be the best to market instead of the first. You allow them to, you know, create the market for you, and it creates confidence in the consumer and other purchasers.
Brilliant. Catherine, very briefly, I think Debbie's. Oh no, Debbie is there as well. Great.
For the COP next year, I think it'd be great to have a showcase of you know, circular economy examples with the carbon reduction impact that they can all make, the kind of thing that can easily be scaled up both within a country and to different countries, so that every country visiting starts to really get the impact that the circular economy could have on emissions worldwide and that they're responsible for.
Brilliant. No, I think Fiona, I might suggest that you and I have a think about how we can do that. That's a great idea, Catherine. Debbie?
I think as well, going back to my sort of joining, I suppose, you know, there's some really good examples around sort of combining SDGs with circular economy, and, you know, there's more metrics and tools out there now, which is great. But I think kind of trying to bring it back down to the SME and the individual, it's just keeping it really.
And I think
clear and consistent. If we're not going to be portrayed as being really complex anyway, can get even more appear to be even more complicated and complex.
No, brilliant. Thank you. I think we could discuss this for a very long time. I think it's a really important one. John Kessels, who I know has attended quite a few COPs in the past, points out that actually to make it meaningful, we need to get it part of the official event rather than off-site. So that's something that the relationship that the CE Hub has with UKRI and with the Cabinet Office and with other parts of government potentially could allow us to do that. So a challenge is not far away, and I know I've been trying to get a circular economy club event going there for a long while, but COVID paid to that. Fiona, I'm going to come to you in a second and ask you to close the session, unless you want to answer anything on the COP question.
I think what I was going to say was to quote a tabloid paper yesterday. Yes, yes, yes. The time is now.
Well, that's perfect, really, isn't it? I think a lot of people have changed their mindset overnight as a result of that proclamation by Joe Biden. I'm going to pick up a question for all the panel. I'm going to take the opportunity to answer this as well. But can you give us each of the panelists, your favourite example of circularity in action? I'm going to ask Richard to start first, then Catherine, then Sally, then Debbie. And a short, succinct overview.
I like interface carpets because they marriage to my passions, biomimicry and the circular economy together. And the
brilliant. That's fine.
CEO of the company.
Thank you.
Interrupted me.
Catherine.
I like the circular cup from UK company Circular & Co, a design agency ex-Dyson engineer Dan Dicker. So it's made from end-of-use plastic coffee cups. It's reusable. It's designed to last for 10 years. And when you finish with it, you can send it back to be recycled into a new cup.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Sally.
I like Biome, which is someone I interviewed Iab Syhed on our Instagram Live, and he grows insulation materials for buildings out of mycelium. And does various other products as well, but that's one of them. And the vision is to have a mycelium-like network all over the place with biomanufacturing hubs where he can supply the local market, and he can employ local people and work with charities like the YMCA to train people up. So there's a social element to it as well as environmental.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sally. Debbie.
You've nicked mine, Sally, because I really like Biome as well, and the work they're doing with the Onion Collective. But that's the thing of going last. So I'll maybe swap to Tea Mills, I think it is. Are they down south? I want to say Isle of Man or something. And my kids were watching a science thing over lockdown, and we had a look at some of their merch. And I was delighted that she'd chosen Tea Mills to do their sort of become an engineer, become a science person kind of t-shirts, because they actually have a code on their label that you can scan once you're finished with the t-shirt. It's got holes in it or whatever, and they send you a return label to send your t-shirt back to them to be recycled. So they've closed that loop completely. So I think it's a really good example.
Brilliant, thank you. And I would have chosen Biome, but then I've got to. I'm also contractually obliged to talk about Tech Take Back, which is one of my projects. But no, I think there's so many good examples. Thank you for the question. If you do want to know about all the examples in your area, please do look at the Circular Economy Club website, where we've got the download of the international mapping exercise, and you can add to that and put in projects. So Fiona, I'm going to hand back to you, ask you what your favourite circularity in action project is, but thank you very much for hosting us, and over to you.
Brilliant, thank you. My favourite circular economy example is a company called River Simple, who produce hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. But not only it's about this, but they lease them. It's not about just the technology, but what they're trying to do across their supply chain. They're trying to develop a model where they all lease the components of the car all the way back up the supply chain. And actually, yesterday we found out that they've just won some funding for the development of a circular economy innovation hub for Wales and supporting local businesses in Wales. So a really good all-round company and initiative. But yes, thank you so much. I'm delighted with the session today. I think there's been some fantastic conversation. The chat has been brilliant. I mean, what I've loved about the chat is everyone sharing resources and examples from all over the world, as well as different regions of the UK, which has been fantastic, and what we really hoped for our relationship with the Circular Economy Club. You know, as an academic hub, we aim to engage with business and policy in the community, but we wouldn't be able to do that without important links to other organisations such as the Circular Economy Club. So that's going to be vital in moving forwards. We'll certainly be running a lot more of these types of co-hosted events and activities, as well as supporting regional and community developments and initiatives through our flexible fund, as we mentioned. So hopefully, you know, this is just the start of this fantastic community. I really encourage you all to get involved in as many activities going forwards as possible, and we'll certainly be in touch to let you know how you can do that. First action, join us on our LinkedIn group. The link perhaps someone can copy in the chat. Also, you can access everything that we're doing through the Circular Economy Hub webpage, and that's where the recording of today's session will be. So if you want to share that with any colleagues or friends, please do so. And also all the presentations will be there as well. But just want to really thank from the bottom of my heart the speakers today, because you've provided us with some fantastic insight into things, initiatives, organisations, you know, that are walking the talk, that are really implementing circular economy at the ground level within cities and regions. And also thank you to David as well for your excellent chairing and facilitation skills and getting through lots of the questions that we got asked. But yeah, thank you very much, and really look forward to engaging with you as we continue.